the biggest form of indignity, insult. You don't react. The biggest form of indignity, building a community, insult. Who don't react. The biggest form of indignity, a community, insult. Who don't react. The biggest form of understanding, a community, insult. Consumers. Let's right from the moment we get up, and until we sleep, the whole day we consume. This is something. This dress that we wear, somebody has made it. The cotton was produced by somebody. Then from the cotton, we moved on to cloth. The weaver, the spinner, the weaver made the cloth. From the cloth, some tailor stitched it. So look at the various stages of producing a certain thing. We are all consumers. How many of us are producers? So we need a transition from a consumerist culture to a producing society, a transition. Something or other. In the kitchen, you need a lot of vegetables. How many of us grow any vegetable at all? Now, thanks to COVID-19, we have started looking at nature. We have started producing a little vegetable. This is all what Gandhi said in 1895 and 2001 and 2002. Let us start producing a little bit, and instead of remaining a consumerist out and out. People did not understand that. So when we are talking about change of what? Change of our attitude, our perception, change in our perspectives, change in our vision, and readiness to undergo change instead of asking others to change. That change has to begin within us. So each of us has to be a change agent of change, instead of asking others to change. This is why Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in others. Be the change you want to see in others. Nobody said this before Gandhi. In our ideal life, parents tell children to do this. In the classroom, teachers tell students to do this. In the state, administrators and the rulers say the public do this. But how many of us do this before they ask others to do? The Gandhian experiment of creating a new society, which he began in South Africa with the founding of two institutions, communities, and later in India, another two communities, the Sabarmati Ashram and the Sevagram Ashram. All these four ashrams were exercises in community living. Only from the community living do we get the concept of being together, being members of a community. We are talking about global community. We are talking about Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, that all of us are one, all of us belong to the same family, but mentally, do we subscribe to this? Peace is not something that descends from the heaven. Peace doesn't descend from the textbooks. Peace doesn't percolate from what you call the philosophical vision of men and women, great people who gave us visionary thoughts. Peace should come. Peace should generate from what we think, how we live, and what we want ourselves to become. This is the second point. So, be the change you want to see in others. Second, imagine thoroughly or fully what you want to become. Realize your capabilities and get rid of fear and develop courage of conviction, courage of confidence, as well as dedication to the ideas that we cherish. And he realized one thing: if you are ready to fight in order to ensure justice for yourself and others, it's not an easy way. You have to suffer, you have to sacrifice. You should be ready to sacrifice what? Our conveniences. But then, human beings basically are not willing to sacrifice anything at all. They want to acquire more and more, more and more. They are not ready to sacrifice at all. Gandhi realized with a certain amount of what one might say distrust as well as disquietness. Now, friends, we come to another important aspect. What did Gandhi uh, give to humanity in South Africa? Just one point, one more point about South Africa. I do believe that some of you, at least the seniors, would have read that small book Gandhi wrote in 1908 when he was in South Africa, a book called Hind Swaraj. It's only about 70 or 80 pages. That book, please remember, the British government banned the book. The Gujarati edition of the book was banned very as soon as it was published. They found in it, the authorities found in it, seditious view that Gandhi was organizing agitation against the British. But it was a wrong reading they made. And what happened was Gandhi did not utter a word about sedition or the views. They misread into making it an article of faith to criticize it and ban it and also condemn it. There were many people who found in the book what is called outrageous view. Gandhi was against railways. Gandhi was against hospitals. Gandhi was against doctors. Gandhi was against parliament. He described parliament even as a sterile woman. And he described modern civilization as something satanic. People, but then he had argument why he described modern civilization satanic, why he described parliament as a sterile woman, and why he was against what you call railways. Many, many things. But then, at the root of all these things, Gandhi wanted a new society which will be possible only on the foundation of sound knowledge, sound judgment, and as well as a readiness to work without expecting anything. And for which he said, we should have a new kind of education, a man-making education, and not something by which students are encouraged to mug up things, by heart things, and omit whatever they have learned on the answer papers. Thereby, we are testing not the human ability of each individual. We are only testing the retentive power of the brain, the memory power of the brain. Well, Gandhi wanted a new education, which he himself practiced while he was in South Africa, which he never described in those days, Naitalim or whatever it is. Much later he described Naitalim. But friends, when Gandhi left South Africa on 1914, he had laid solid foundation for certain movements through which people will be ready to stand up and fight for their rights. And the Satyagraha that he organized, the jail pharaoh movement that he organized. He himself went to jail several times in South Africa. And his wife went to jail a couple of times in South Africa. Suddenly, in the first time in modern history, people were the whole humanity looking at what was happening in South Africa. That here is a man, a social activist from India. He is encouraging people to defy the unjust rules, and he was defying people to stand up and fight for their justice, even by going to the jail. And one of the greatest thinkers of the day, Count Leo Tolstoy, described I am quoting, what Mr. Gandhi is doing in South Africa is the most outstanding happening in the world today. And when Gandhi left South Africa for India, and after Gandhi took up 32 years of solid experiments with truth, with everything, the most important aspect of what Gandhi did was he was giving hope. He was generating optimism. He had given a vision of a future which will be based on cooperative ideas, and which will nurture what is called a new style of living nurtured in non-violence, a transition from violence, a change from violence to non-violence, so that everybody will become an agent of change, an agent of ahimsa, an agent of goodwill, an agent of reconciliation, an agent of forgiveness, which later, let us understand, later the South African nation, when it became free, Nelson Mandela said with telling effect, Gandhiji is not only the father of India, he is the father of South Africa as well, because it was from Gandhi that we learned the art of satyagraha. It was from Gandhi that we learned the art of not confronting the evil with evil, return good, return good. Gandhiji had already emphasized the importance of showing the other cheek, something that he learned from the Bible, the biblical assertion. When you are given a blow, show the other cheeks. So all these things influence a considerable segment of international community by 1920, when Gandhi assumed leadership of the nationalist movement in India. And until 1948, when he was felled by an assassin on the lawns of the Birla House on 30th January 1948, he had visualized a new civilization, a new society, a new political order. And he had influenced millions and millions of people in India, that if there are disputes, if there are differences of opinion, you should find ways and means to sit together around a table and sort out these differences. Let's take two more aspects for a discussion, because I have to conclude my argument in the next 5-6 minutes, because there is another place where I should be present in the next 10 minutes. If there are questions, I am ready to take a few questions before I go. But then the last point that I would like to mention is, by 1947, when we became India free, as a result of a glorious people's resistance movement, which was hitherto unknown in modern history. No country had become, before India became free in 1947, through a non-violent resistance movement, a non-violent people's campaign, a non-violent war, which was fought at the intellectual level, at psychic level, at moral level, at spiritual level. Many people were baffled by the enormity of people's support Gandhi was drawing. Not that everybody understood Gandhi. There were many people who criticized Gandhi all along, right from South Africa, and until the day he was killed. There were lot of people who were skeptical about Gandhi, critical of Gandhi, and who condemned all what Gandhi did. But then he knew one thing. He said, walk alone, like Rabindranath Tagore, whose immortal song, Ekla Chalo, Ekla Chalo, Ekla Chalo, walk alone if they don't understand you, even if they stone you, walk alone. But then, when you are choosing to walk alone, you should be convinced that you are right. Gandhi was convinced that he had a point to make. He had a mission to deliver. He has a mission to deliver. What was that mission? Making India free was not the only object of Gandhi. Gandhi's aim was laying the foundation for a new social order based on three principles: equality, justice, and a kind of social order which will bring people together. That is what he wanted. And he strove for it. That's why he wanted educational reform in this country, a non-violent education, a non-violent society. People will not be able to fight for everything, but then people are to be educated, oriented, and given a direction so that they will love the country and they will all become part of the process of democratic process which was evolving. The Panchayati Raj that he visualized was the blueprint and the scaffolding of a new civilization, the making where the society will be built not from the top to the bottom, but society will move from the bottom upward movement. That one, the oceanic circle of development, Gandhiji wanted to happen in this country. And India being a pluralist country where all religions of the world exist with equal freedom, equal opportunities. Gandhi did not want people to fight on trivial issues of religion, caste, or maybe other things. That's why he thought of a new religious approach. He called it Sarva Dharma Samabhav, equal respect for all religion. And it was because of Gandhi. Gandhi's insistence, though he was not a member of the Constituent Assembly, Gandhi insisted through his associates that India should be a secular country where everybody will have the freedom to choose religion that he visualizes, practice the religion that he is comfortable with. These are all individual rights. The freedom for property, the freedom of owning houses, freedom to run industries, all these things were enshrined in the constitution, but then they were all what you call reflections of an egalitarian society which he wanted India to become. But friends, there, Gandhi was away on August 15th when all of us were jubilant and celebrating the first Independent Day. He was away in Bengal. He was away in Bengal praying in the house of a Muslim gentleman for harmony, happiness, and goodwill because Bengal was experiencing killing, arson, looting, raping, and utter destruction of properties. People had become insane. They had become mad. The Sukravarti government could not do much. And it was at that time Gandhi went there and stayed there. The moment, as a result of Gandhi staying there, things became peaceful. People understood that they should not kill each other on trivial issues. And Gandhi continued to work with them, staying there. And when Gandhi was asked to go to Delhi on August 15 to be a part of the celebrations, he said, "My place is where people suffer, not where people celebrate." From there, you know what happened. Gandhi and earlier also Gandhi had worked in areas where people were fighting. The the greatest, one of the greatest man-made killing, arson, bloodbath happened in Navakhali, today's Bangladesh. And the days Gandhi stayed there, worked there, counseled patients, interacted with people, and advised them not to kill each other, but be an agent of change. Be going on loving each other, because when you are moved by passion, you lose your conscience. It should not happen. So Gandhi was probably demonstrating the idea that he was thinking for long, that the purpose of human life is to encourage others to enrich the fiber and texture of human life, so that from ordinary human, a better human being will emerge, which is possible if only we become an agent of change, an agent of peace. And he called that agent Shanti Saini. So the Shanti Sena idea that he developed while he was in Navakhali aimed at two things. One is encourage people to respect each other, encourage to work, to reflect on the capabilities of everybody, to become a help to others in realizing their objectives. All these things happen, but one thing that disappointed Gandhi was to what extent we had realized the objective of becoming a free country. And Gandhi went on stating what we have obtained is only political freedom. We should strive to ensure three things: economic justice, social justice, and individual freedom. These three things. And he said, if I will be alive, I would like to lead a second freedom movement to make India really worth free. But unfortunately, after a few days when he returned from Bengal, he was killed on the 30th of January. But friends, the question is, Gandhi was assassinated 60, 70 years ago. But then today, when we are celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, what are the lessons that we learn from him? Reading books on Gandhi, good. Discussing the various aspects of Gandhian philosophy is equally good. But then, what is it that we do to discover the Gandhi in each of us? The Gandhi in each of us means It's not Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, but his work. The totality of Gandhi's work, contribution, and the legacy that he left for humanity, which has become a mighty, what is called, wave or ocean of thought, which goes on influencing people all over the world. I'm coming to the last point. Today, when you and I are exchanging ideas like this through this webinar, please remember, today in 165 countries all over the world, seminars or webinars like this are going on. In over seven to 800 villages, towns, cities of India, discussions or something or other related to Gandhi going on to discover, understand, interpret, reinterpret Gandhi. In over 2 lakhs of schools, colleges, other educational institutions, a center like a great center like your own institute is organizing a program. What does it mean? Today morning, I was on a panel constituted by the UNESCO, a Paris-based UNESCO, which organized the Gandhian order as a webinar on the Gandhian order of development. I had the pleasure to be on the panel to discuss. I discussed with them some of these points. But the question is, what do these things mean? These things mean that Gandhi had not lived in vain. Gandhi influenced the collective consciousness of humanity in a very big way. It's not that we will be dressing like Gandhi. It is not that we will be living like Gandhi. There is only one Gandhi. Gandhi himself said, I am not Gandhian. I have no disciples. I am my own disciple. There is nothing Gandhism. There is nothing Gandhism. Bury all what I did. Sorry, bury all what I wrote. Bury all what I spoke. What I did alone should endure. What? So he was a man of action all along. All the 53 years or a little earlier, yeah, even in London when he was a student of law, he made experiments on vegetarianism and how to live a certain kind of simple living. All these things have influenced humanity in a big way. And all over, in many countries, in over 98 countries in the world today are witnessing campaigns along Gandhian lines, protests along Gandhian lines, satyagraha along Gandhian lines, many things. So Gandhi was not a failure in that way. He is a light, and that light inspires, encourages. And the last point that I would like to discuss with you is the last advice that Gandhi gave to Indians is that each of us should become an agent of peace. An agent of peace is someone who lives truthfully, honestly, paradukhe upakar kare to bhi Vaishnava janado tene kahiye je peeth paraye jane re. We should become those inspired agents who will be models to others. Parents have to become models to their children. Teachers have to become models to their students. Rulers have to become models to their subjects. It's not happening very often. We want others to change. We don't subscribe to be the change you want to become. No. Gandhi was trying to stress, remain the core values of sustenance. That sustenance will be possible if only we understand the laws of survival. That survival should be on the basis of sustainable peace. If you want sustainable peace, you have to understand the basic lessons that we have to live in harmony with nature, preserve nature, not to exploit. We need scientific developments, we need technological developments, we need economic developments, all these things, but not at the cost of basic issues which corrode and wash away, which will wash away all what we have learned. The one point is again, when Gandhi wanted us to be an agent of peace, Gandhi said, let us stick to a non-violent perception of life. That non-violent perception of life will be possible if only we respect others, if only we love others, if only we realize that we have to survive. If we have to survive, we have to understand, imbibe this basic aspect of the law of what is called social social change. That social change is nurtured in sarva, dharma, samabhava, Vaishnava, Janado, Tene, Kahiye Japitu Paraye, Jane Re, as well as whatever, to whichever way somebody wants to live, Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, Padita Pavana Sita Ram, Ishwar Allah Tere Naam, Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. O God, be the agent of peace, be the promoter of peace, be the guardian angel of our survival, and give us that strength. This is the essence of Gandhi's life. This is the essence of Gandhi's martyrdom. This is the essence of Gandhi's legacy as we celebrate his 151st birth anniversary. I am happy that you have invited me to share my thoughts. I am happy that I could share with you some of these ideas. Maybe if after the COVID disappears, so I would like to come to visit your university, which I will do, institute, which I will do on my own, and we can talk more. Let me congratulate the director, the other organizers, learned faculty, researchers, and all the others of your institute. And may you be blessed. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for a very thought-provoking talk on Mahatma and the importance of his messages. But as you mentioned, do you have time for one or two questions?
Yes.
Okay. So, any questions or comments from the audience? Make it really brief.
One second, one question.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you again for a wonderful talk. The technology's role and the Gandhian life. Since now with artificial intelligence, with onslaught of new technological changes and disruptions, what do you think? How does it affect the Gandhian life? Do you see any dichotomy or?
Well, it's a question that requires in-depth analysis of the situation, and it's very often discussed, and these issues are raised, and maybe you have another webinar on it. I will choose time. We will discuss it. It's a good topic, but then you will not be satisfied with one line answer that I am going to give, or a two-liner. There's no dichotomy about that. Absolutely, there is no dichotomy. The dichotomy is in our mind. The dichotomy is in our perception. It has nothing to do with the reality as reality emerges. And as scientists and technologists, or those of you who are involved in analyzing the problems clinically, must be very familiar with these aspects. Thank you.
Thank
One
you.
more question I can.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
So there is a principle of Gandhiji like see no evil also. So this I have already asked to one of the speakers also. There is a principle of Gandhiji like see no evil. And in today's scenario, if there's any evil happening in front of us, and if we don't see it, then it's a kind of being injustice. Then it's violating the another principle of Gandhiji is justice. So how to
I appreciate the question. I expected a question like this, and I was wondering why nobody has raised this question. One basic aspect of Gandhi as he grew older and as he grappled the realities of life is he never compromised fighting evils. Evils, injustice, in whichever form existed, Gandhi wanted it to be fought out and rooted out completely. What is happened? Injustice is an evil. Look at what is happening around you today. Today's India is not what Gandhi wanted. What Gandhi would have prayed God to take him back again. The way women are ill-treated, the way children are being raped.
yes.
No place is safe for our women in this country. Man has become, it appears, brute. I don't understand why every man should be viewed as a rapist. Grandchildren are afraid of staying with their what you call grandparents. Situation is becoming very, very bad. Probably the educational institutions, research institutions, and other institutions in this country should become seeds of another great revolution, which will educate people that we should not be animals and brutes. We have to be human beings. Very, it's a good question, my dear friend. Thank you for reminding. Okay, then probably I should be excused. I have to be in another place very soon.
Then I request our registrar, Dr. Mohan Kumar, to propose a vote of thanks.
Okay.
Professor Radhakrishnan, at the outset, let me on behalf of the Institute, thank you very much for responding to us at short notice and giving us this wonderful, insightful talk with all your ideas and thoughts about how Gandhiji would have liked society and humanity to be, and his contribution to society and humanity itself, and also your thoughts on how education should pan out in the current context. We won't take much of your time. I also thank all the participants who have participated in the events today. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.